Hello everyone and happy Earth Day. My name is Edward Palmieri and I'm the Director of Global Sustainability at Facebook. Welcome to Facebook's Social Good for Business webinar series and to our first episode celebrating Earth Day, the future of sustainable brands. I'm so excited to be here with you today to share why sustainability is important at Facebook and to explain what we do to fight the climate crisis. Our focus on the environment isn't new. We've been at it for more than 10 years because we see climate change as one of the most urgent issues facing the world today, and we're committing to help fight it. So I'm happy to report that in 2020, we achieved net zero carbon emissions for our global operations. And now we support those operations with 100% renewable energy. We're also very aware that our environmental impact beyond our operations is important to the picture. So in 2020, we set a new ambitious goal to reach net zero emissions across our entire value chain by 2030. What this means is that we will work over the next 10 years to drive the same carbon reductions into our supply chain as we have done in our own direct operations. And by 2030, we will also balance any remaining carbon that we weren't able to eliminate by removing the same amount of greenhouse gas emissions from the atmosphere. If you'd like to hear more about Facebook's sustainability priorities, please check us out at sustainability.fb.com. What's important is that we're all thinking about how to reduce our impact on the world and hold ourselves and our partners accountable. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll now hand it over to our Head of Global Business Strategy and Engagement, Ariel Gross-Samuels, who is moderating our conversation on the future of sustainable brands. Again, happy Earth Day and thank you.
Thank you, Edward, for that lovely introduction. And hello, everyone, and welcome to Facebook's celebration of Earth Day, focused on the future of sustainable brands. My name is Ariel Gross-Samuels, and I'm the Head of Global Business Strategy and Engagement here at Facebook. And my team is really focused on accelerating business actions that produce equality and social good all over the world. Now, our mission at Facebook is to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together. From our founding in 2004 till today, we serve a global community of 3.3 billion people, and sustainability has been core to our ethos from day one. I'm especially proud that we are a net zero emissions company, and we take our carbon footprint really seriously. So I'm thrilled today to be joined by two esteemed leaders in this space. We have the CEO and founder of the Recycling Partnership, Keith Harrison, and the Global President of Essential Health and Sustainability at Johnson & Johnson Consumer Health, Katie Decker. Welcome, Keith and Katie.
Thank you so much for having me. We're really looking forward to this conversation.
Happy Earth Day. I am so glad to be here today.
Now, the Recycling Partnership is a leading NGO in the space of recyclability and creating a more equal and consumer-conscious economy. Keith is a 20-year veteran in the space. She's an international speaker and writer on the topic. And I had the pleasure of working with the Recycling Partnership and with Keith directly for a recent initiative we launched called Communities for Recycling. This was an initiative that really tried to address two main problems. One is that there are 20 million tons of recyclable materials that end up in landfills each year. And the second is that recycling is a global problem that requires hyper-local solutions. And so Facebook and the Recycling Partnership, alongside several CPG companies, came together to create a messenger experience that provides people in Fort Worth, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia, with hyperlocal information that they can use in a really engaging way to understand what they can and cannot recycle. Of course, Johnson & Johnson is a very important client of Facebook, and we're thrilled to have Katie join us here as well. In her role, she leads a central team focused on facilitating a delightful consumer experience and driving market best practices and unlocking growth. She's also the executive sponsor for Johnson & Johnson Consumer Health's Healthy Lives Sustainability Framework, where she's focused on advancing portfolio-wide strategy around human and planetary health. All right, so let's jump in. I want to start by asking both of you to speak about the role that sustainability and recycling plays for your respective businesses. Why is it a priority? What's your vision as it pertains to both sustainability and recycling? Why don't we start with you, Keith?
Really glad to be here today. This is an exciting topic for me, and this is the exact reason that the Recycling Partnership exists. Americans want to recycle, but not enough of us can. And what that means is billions of dollars of recyclables end up in the dump every year. So we're out to change that. We think that's really important because not only do people want that, the planet needs it. So what's holding us back? Well, many of us want to, but I bet you're watching right now. There's some of you out there that are saying, sure, I'd like to, but I have to work really hard. There's no recycling where I am, or I'm not really sure what to do. So one, we need to make sure that people that they actually have good service to be able to recycle. And then two, we need to influence how things are designed so that they are more recycling friendly. I'd love to get into that today because that's what we're all about. We're an action agent. As a national nonprofit, we're really focused on making the change to make a better system. And what we're trying to do is build a circular economy. What does that mean? Well, right now we're in a linear economy. That means that things are made and then they're disposed. It's a make to waste cycle, or not a cycle. It's a make to waste linear line. What we're trying to design is a circular one. So from chemistry and the point of design all the way through to when that product is done, the intention of, well, what comes next and how can it fuel a better future is answered even before it comes into even existing. So that's why we work with thousands of communities across this country, because we're trying to overhaul underperforming recycling systems. At the same time, we're working with important companies like J&J to build better products that people can recycle. We're putting these systems together.
Wonderful. Katie, how about for you?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for putting this panel together, and happy Earth Day, everybody. At Johnson & Johnson, we're the world's largest healthcare company, and what I do is work for Johnson & Johnson Consumer Health, and so we're the consumer arm of the world's largest healthcare company. So it makes sense that the products that we sell are good for people's health and for the health of the planet. And honestly, I think that's what gets people out of bed every day at Johnson & Johnson, is trying to make a meaningful difference in health for people. And so as a result, for the last 2 years, we've been working really hard to figure out what investments do we need to make and how do we ensure that we're setting up our portfolio to be the most sustainable in the industry. And that's why last year we launched the Healthy Lives Mission. We made an external commitment to invest $800 million over the next 10 years in 3 areas. It's in our product portfolio, in our operations, and to fund partnerships that will have a meaningful and broad societal impact by 2030. And so it's all of this together in part of our Healthy Lives Mission, where we think we're going to make a really big difference. And some of that is innovating in the space of making our packaging easier to reuse and recycle. It's in our paper that we choose and making sure that that's all FSC certified paper and that we're using as many recycled materials as possible. We're also moving forward, eliminating any kind of problematic plastics like polystyrene, like black plastic from our global portfolio by the end of 2022. Additionally, in addition to the impact on the planet, the impact on human health is also really important. So we're advancing and prioritizing some of the hardest to tackle human health diseases, like diseases brought on by smoking, diseases brought on by sun exposure. So smoking cessation and skin cancer are 2 priority health areas for us. And we're doing this collectively with our 19,000 employees because we know that having everybody rowing in the same direction gives us the best opportunity to make a difference.
It's incredible. So I want to start by talking about the fact that 80% of consumers surveyed from TRP last year shared that they are more conscious of sustainability and of the need for a sustainable future today versus 5 years ago. Why do you think that is? Why is it more top of mind for consumers as well as for businesses to care about recycling and sustainability? Keith, let's start with you.
The shift is definitely strong. It's led by young people who are looking ahead at their future and saying, wait a minute, this is not the future I'm planning. And we measure consumer human intent around how we protect the planet. And we see that trend over time. Right now, we see that people are really associating planetary protection with their personal core values, and they're saying, this matters so much for me that I'm going to go out of my way to buy greener things, to do greener activities. And 45% of them said that if they learn about companies that don't align with their values, they're considering not supporting them. That's a big shift from the way that it used to be. We also see that more than a third of people and consumers are starting to say, wait a minute, I have a voice in helping to make cleaner products. And they have a vision that within 10 years' time, they want to make sure that everything that's out there is green, is recyclable, and they're ready to cut through, what does all of this mean? What do terms like green even mean? They want to know that if they have to buy something, they're buying something that doesn't have unintended negative consequences for the planet. And when they're done, it can get made into something else. That shift is a good thing in my mind, because it helps drive support from companies and policymakers at the same time.
I completely agree with you. And sustainability is an imperative for today's brands. I mean, our stakeholders are expecting this of us. Our consumers expect brands and companies to demonstrate support for health of people on the planet. All of our stakeholders, whether it be our customers, our suppliers, policymakers, governments, everybody expects business and brands to ensure that sustainability is embedded into their value proposition. And that's what's so exciting to me in this role. And honestly, it's what is like a driving force for us, is to make sure that we're meeting our consumers' health needs. And so that's why it's this healthy lives mission that I was mentioning is really embedded into everything that we do. And I think that's another thing that we learned from other big companies that are having a lot of success in this space, is not to have it be something on the side. It's not a group that does sustainability. It's embedded in the DNA of the company. And that's where you really start making a meaningful difference. And I'll give you an example. One of the questions that I'm asked a lot is, the cost of sustainability, and people thinking that, if you're going to be more sustainable, that there's somehow some kind of trade-off here that's bad for business. But completely on the opposite, sustainability is good for business, right? And a couple of examples where we've found that you can be sustainable, good for people's health, good for the planet, and actually save cost as well. We've got some examples on our Johnson's Baby business where we just removed 30 million pumps that are impossible to recycle from our products, resulting in not only a huge sustainability win and a waste savings, but also, reduction in cost. We're having the same experience with our business in the club channel, right? Where you think about shopping in a club store, the multi-packs that you buy and the packaging that goes around putting those things together. We've had some recent wins on our Neutrogena business where we were able to reduce or eliminate the outer plastic. And in just one product on our Neutrogena oil-free acne wash pink grapefruit flavor, in just that one instance at one customer, we removed over 90,000 pounds of plastic, 3.2 million square feet of corrugate, and took 36 trucks off the road while also saving money. So we reduced waste, we reduced carbon emissions, we had a big cost savings, and that's just one item at one customer. It's like, imagine what could happen if all businesses, went through their portfolios and thought in this way. We would make such a huge impact on the health of the planet.
Katie, that's amazing impact. And I love how you're bringing it to life in such a real, tangible way. So thank you for sharing that with us. Now, Keith, you've talked about this idea of breaking the linear progression in our consumer lifespan and really focusing on making for a more cyclical economy surrounding recycling. We know that only a third of household recyclables actually get recycled, which means that 2/3 do not. What can we do to pursue a solution that will actually improve the accuracy of recycling in communities?
Right. Our current recycling rate is about a third. And that's discouraging to people. And I think they sometimes land with this feeling of recycling let them down. And I instead like to make sure that people understand that recycling isn't one thing. It is 9,000 local governments. It is hundreds of companies. It is a collection of exercises intended to make sure that we're not extracting natural resources when we could be recycling them and using them over and over. And every consumer has influence. I love what Katie just said. When people say, what am I going to do about it? I just have one voice. I say, you have a very loud voice and people are listening. Don't just vote with your dollar. Tell companies why you're voting with your dollar, because they really are listening right now. It's a unique moment in time. This heightened consumer intent is matched with political intent, and I feel a shift. I've been in this industry for more than 20 years, slogging away at trying to build a better system to protect our natural resources. And now I see policymakers, the public at large, and companies all aligned. And they're understanding that now is the moment to change this. 84% of consumers are telling us that they expect their packaging to be recyclable. End of story. They don't want a long dialogue about that. They just want it to be done. And so what is it going to take to build that? We need to make sure that everyone can. Things are designed for recycling, and that there's an upgraded system that's ready to handle not just the materials of yesterday, but really what's in your household now that needs to have a new future to turn into something new.
Now, Katie, you've shared with us your commitments as a company around sustainability and recycling and compostability. I'm curious to get your perspective on the broader industry and what other businesses are doing in terms of commitments and trends and pledges. What are you seeing about the role that businesses can play in the sustainability ecosystem?
I think businesses have a huge role in the sustainability ecosystem. I mean, it's all of the businesses, suppliers, different industries coming together that's going to be the thing that makes a big difference and a big change. And something that's making me really excited is just going company by company, at least in the consumer products industry. That's, since I work in that industry, and seeing all of the different goals that companies are committing to, and watching over time as those goals become more and more and more aggressive. And actually starting to see the fruits of the work of some of those goals, right? And how we're seeing those things in market now, and just thinking about how different the landscape is going to look in 2025, 2030, which is a real target date for many of these goals, a deadline for many of these goals to come to life. I'll give you some examples, from our business that, we've made some pretty great progress in the last year, and a couple of things, the proof points to highlight that, on Listerine, very iconic brand bottle. I'm sure in your mind you're thinking of exactly what Listerine looks like. Has a big black cap, right? We've decided to move that to clear caps, and that is rolling out in Europe as we speak. It's a very important change, and it was something that will roll out across the world. In our OGX, our shampoo line, we've been changing and moving out of black bottles and moving those to clear. So this is all with the idea of ensuring that we can reduce any unrecyclable plastics that are in our portfolio, and certainly have everything be 100% recyclable by 2025. The other thing too is that, and I know many companies are struggling with this, we put goals out there, we start organizing teams, pivoting our strategy in this direction. But you just can't turn a large organization overnight, right? This is a multi-year process to make sure that every decision that we make is done with a sustainable lens in mind. I mean, I often talk internally and I tell the teams, whether you realize it or not, every single decision that you're making, no matter how small, is either for or against sustainability, really, whether you realize it or not. So it's like, let's put that at the forefront and think through that lens of every decision that we make. And so, one of the things that we know is, like, it's not our expectation to be the fastest or the first, but when we're making the changes, we're making them for the long term, and we're making sure that we figure out how to scale it across our entire portfolio. And in the idea of, goals and commitments and, that businesses have committed to, I can share a couple of the ones that we've recently committed to over the last 3 years. In 2018, we signed on to the New Plastics Economy Global Commitment, with the EMF Foundation. We've also, once we signed on to that and we took a look inside, we realized we really needed a design for recyclability policy and governance process. So that's something that's been rolled out. It is the absolute law internally of how we design all of our packaging moving forward. We also created a Care to Recycle program, which is helping to encourage U.S. consumers to recycle their personal care products since 2014. We've joined many companies in North America adopting the How to Recycle label. And we also sit on a number of trade organizations, including the Recycling Partnership, also the Sustainable Packaging Coalition, the Association of Plastic Recyclers, the Consumer Goods Forum, and we do all of these things because no one company can do this alone. Like as I said at the beginning, it's all businesses working together to try to move everything in the direction that we need to go.
I completely agree with Katie that we need aggressive goals. And when I see those goals from companies, I look to see if they have partners. At the Recycling Partnership, we talk about our job is to insist and assist. When we hear a company make a sustainability goal, it's our job to help insist that they get there. The planet requires it, but they can't do it alone. They need partnerships from their peers, from us, from communities, from the public at large. So we insist and we assist. And we do that by building coalitions. So J&J helped us launch a program called Pathway to Circularity. And that's a new design program where how do we build industry coalitions around things that aren't currently widely recycled and then change that, make them, work on everything from design all the way to recovery. Another example is the one that Katie mentioned around the U.S. Plastics Pact. That has launched with nearly 90 members, companies that are saying, by 2025, we're going to set aggressive goals around plastics recycling. These sort of initiatives over and over again signal that this isn't wishful thinking, and it certainly can't be greenwashing. It has to be something that brings industry to the table to build solutions. And together with the partnership, we really work on that collaboration, and then we measure it to make sure that we're making effect over time.
That's fantastic, Keith. Thank you for sharing that. And you illustrate such an incredible vision of, frankly, a reality, but also a future of where businesses can really unify and lock arms to pursue a more sustainable outcome in the world. I'm also curious about what's holding businesses and people back from taking a real commitment and making action. When you think about the barriers of entry, when you mentioned greenwashing and the stigma around that, what are some of the challenges that prevent businesses from taking that action? And what can we do to support them?
Well, one is the hard work it takes around redesigning for a system that isn't quite robust enough yet. So we've got a lot of moving parts, and we can't wait to just redesign and then build a system and then make sure we're turning it into something new. We're trying to level up lots of pieces at the exact same time. And everything is pretty fragmented right now. I'd argue this is why we really need policy to help bring these pieces together. Did you know that there's 20,000 local governments in the U.S.? 9,000 of them run their own programs. There are 9,000 different recycling programs in the U.S. I bet you've had an experience where you've traveled somewhere and you've thought, but I can recycle this at home. Why can't I here? And that disconnect is because recycling is really on the backs of each local government to decide what they do and how. We're about to release a report that says, what if we fixed that? What would it cost to level up the U.S. system and get everything working together? And the answer is in the billions, but we know how. It's by making sure that everyone can, that by ensuring that packaging is designed to meet the system and upgrading the system to meet the packaging. It's a give and take to put it together. So I think the opportunity is there for companies to understand that it's not just theirs alone, but they have a significant role to play. And when you put together the public at large, the corporate sector, and our governmental sector, we see that we're a lot closer to a robust solution. The last thing I'd add is the new tool we launched with Facebook is all about communities for recycling. That gets to the point of, can I recycle that? It's almost an age-old question right now of, can I recycle that? Together with Facebook, we've helped to build a tool through Messenger that really gets to that and then makes it really local. If there's 9,000 different answers, then we better figure out a way for you to be able to easily know, can I recycle that where I am right now? Communities for Recycling is an excellent step in getting to that point, and I couldn't be more excited about that new tool.
That's awesome. I am also very excited about that tool. So, happy birthday. After all, we're celebrating the Earth. We're celebrating the longevity, hopefully, of this environment, and making sure that the Earth is able to sustain future generations in perpetuity. And so let's bring it back to that. What are you hopeful for? You've both today mentioned just extraordinary commitments and pledges, both from your respective companies as well as the role that businesses play, the policymakers play. What brings you hope as you think about the future of our planet? Katie, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm extremely hopeful and optimistic about where things are going and our future. I mean, this is because of the passion for this work that I see each and every day in my colleagues. When we launched the Healthy Lives mission and we continue to expand it across the company and with more and more goals and with more and more work streams coming together, it's really motivating work. It's so purpose driven. And as soon as our employees start putting all the pieces together, they really want to do more. They see the impact their actions have on our consumers and on our business and on the planet. And, it's such a dynamic topic, right? And so we're collaborating to learn, understand, share knowledge, expertise, and innovations. No one company, government, retailer will have all the answers. But to us, this really gives us this North Star, which we would define as like a healthier future. We know that when we keep that in mind and we work together, that the positive outcomes are sure to follow. And that's what really gives me hope.
Hope is the power of people who care. And I've never seen so many people that cared and also just are fed up. There's just no more time. I see such passion for that in the public, in communities, in governments, federal, state, local, and in companies. And I think we all know that if we're going to protect our planet from the climate catastrophe that's coming, this is the decade. It's already second quarter of 21. It's right now. So I believe in people who decide that they can and get together and get to work. I also believe that we're in a moment in time where we can finally have our missing piece when it comes to recycling and the circular economy, and that's policy. Policy comes to the table to help us build a common place where we can all achieve the same goal. And our goal is to make sure that everything's designed for recycling, people can, that it's in equal access to every person in this country, that there is a social justice element of making sure that there's equality in building a better future together.
Thank you so much, Katie and Keith, for this wonderful conversation as we celebrate Earth Day and we talk about the role that businesses and consumers alike can play in creating a more sustainable planet that's going to be supported for many generations to come. I'm so grateful for your time today, and I welcome everyone in celebrating Earth Day to check out Facebook's Climate Science Information Center, as well as our Sustainability Hub, to learn more about the actions that you can take to pursue a greener, more sustainable planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day.